Off. Hello, my name is Brad Bodnerchuk, and welcome to the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast, where we discuss everything hospitality, from the food on the plate to the teams that make it happen and the community that drives this industry forward. On this podcast, we sit down and chat with some of the most exciting, inspiring, and innovative minds that make up one of the most dynamic industries that there is today. And today I have the pleasure of being joined by none other than Gabe from Harvest Community Foods and Andrea from Burdock Co. Welcome, ladies.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for making time and holding space, as I know you guys are both very, very busy. Andrea just literally ran all over town, not figuratively, literally, to be here. So I really do appreciate you guys holding space, as I know you guys are both busy with many, many things going on. The first question that I like to lead this interview with is the how, the where, the why, you guys and food. So individually, if you can go back as far as you can, help myself and the listeners and the viewers understand why you're here today and how you feel food has affected you from way back when to now. Feel free to jump in.
God. Okay. Food, I always enjoyed cooking when I was a kid.
Okay.
I never really thought I would do it professionally. It was always just a hobby. And I ended up working in a heli skiing lodge for 6-7 years, and I did everything but cooking, but I was always most interested in what the chef was doing, and I would get like the Bon Appetit and Saveur magazines, and I would sit there, like people would be reading novels, and I'd be like reading the magazine, like asking the chef, what does this mean? What does that mean? And he's like, you're really reading those, aren't you? And then I was like, yeah, I want to start cooking. And one of the women who worked in the lodge had just come back from the Stratford Chef School.
Oh, wow.
And she was like, oh, yeah, it was great. She was a pastry chef, but she wanted to learn the non-pastry side of cooking. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I'm going to apply. And it's the only school I applied to. They wouldn't take you unless you had worked in a kitchen for 6 months.
Right.
So my cousin at the time was the sous chef at Sandbar. So I pretty much said, can I come in and volunteer for 6 months?
You did like a stage for 6 months.
They ended up paying me after a few weeks, but yeah, I did that for 6 months and then went to Stratford. And
so cool.
And I was like, yeah, had all these plans to travel the world and work in, like, I love traveling. That was one of the things about wanting to cook, is I knew I could do it anywhere.
Yeah, very transferable.
But I ended up getting hired by Rob Clark at C in between my first and second year of school. Okay. And my traveling didn't happen.
It's funny how that happens. I actually moved to England after university with that same idea. More along like the front of the house. That's kind of my jam. I wanted to experience cocktails and mixology, and that was kind of where I wanted to go with it. And I
was going to work on cruise ships, not cruise ships, but yachts. So I was like, I'm going to do I met some like customers at Sandbar who were like in and working on a yacht parked in Granville Island. They like brought me over, gave me a tour, like contact, and but no, I met Rob Clark, Rob Belcham, and Andrea, and pretty much that was it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. Andrea, how about yourself? Can you take us back a ways?
Yeah, for sure. I got involved in cooking right out of high school. Okay. Went to culinary school here in Vancouver. Had sort of a little bit of a premonition that it might be something I'm into when I was around 13-ish years old. Picked up my first cookbook just randomly while I was out with the family shopping one day, and really enjoyed sort of tucking into some of those recipes. It was an old New York Times cookbook with some of those classic, like Julia Child style recipes.
Yeah,
so
really cool.
Really thought that was great. And, didn't really feel, the academic vibe so much after I got out of high school, and going in that direction wasn't really suiting me. And the idea of a more dynamic job that was, based around the senses and being active and that sort of thing was certainly something that seemed like a better fit. So going to cooking school was, felt perfect. Right. Everything made sense. And then that's how I got into the industry.
Wow. And then we're here today where you're both, and feel free to interject here, but my understanding is, Gabe, you're more or less looking after Harvest Community Foods, and Andrea, Burdock Co. is your baby from the ground up, correct?
That's right.
And so help us understand what a day in the life for Gabe looks like you down at Harvest Community Foods, and how that business differs from what they're doing up here at Burdock. And then Andrea, maybe describe to us what a day like looks for you here at Burdock.
Well, down at Harvest, I personally start early. We usually around 7 to get all the prep done before we open at 11. It's such a cool street down there, cool neighborhood. I quite enjoy. I'll be, prepping, and people from Tight Club will be like running up and down the street working out, especially now in the summer. There's such, there's a lot going on. So yeah, I start my prepping. I go around the corner every morning to the little Chinese, Asian markets, get some, bok choy, green onions, like say hi to all the little ladies. I get my 10% off now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's really cute. We don't have a lot of conversation because, there's not a lot of English.
Right.
But it's fun. And we open up around 11, and then we usually get a pretty good lunch rush.
Nice.
I have a cook that comes in around 10:30. It's different than up here. Burdock is definitely an evening place, so I'm pretty much done work when they're starting their service.
Does that fit you? I feel like that for me, if I was going to be in the industry again, I would love.
In my old age now, it definitely fits. I do do some cameo appearances up here when it's needed, and it's an adjustment to be working till midnight, and then I'm definitely and today I work out at 6, so I'm getting up at 5:30 and working out before work, and then so it's definitely different than in the first years of my cooking career.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, so I'm done by 5ish, and it's great. I get evenings off, but then I'm usually passed out by 9 or 10.
That's all right. That's all right. Well, you need to be if you're getting up at 5 a.m.
So
the next day.
it's very strange. It's very strange.
Yeah, it's very kind of unorthodox for this industry to be done at 5. If you tell someone that you work in this industry and you're finished work at 5, they kind of go, well, how is that possible?
But it's definitely a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
I drink less now.
Yeah, Andrea agrees. Andrea, what about yourself? Do you find yourself on the line certain days a week? Are you coming in at 11?
I do.
Yeah?
I do.
She works long hours.
Just, as a consequence of the nature of this business, there always are, there can be fluctuations in staffing. So, 2 weeks ago, I was super flush with staff, and I managed to take 3 days off here and then 3 days off there. And now, as of this morning, I'm down 2 cooks. So, I'm working service tonight. So that's just the way it goes.
Right.
Lots of
doubles on the weekend with
doubles
brunches.
on the weekends. Very exciting. So, trying to manage staffing levels and filling in where needed. And then, on the weekends, if I'm not in the kitchen, I like to be on the floor to help with food running. And, be a bit more involved with guests. And then, of course, just sort of the business operations in terms of bookkeeping, that sort of thing.
Right.
With Harvest and Burdock, and just sort of managing those sorts of things in the downtime as well, and trying to do things to move the business forward, and not just get strictly bogged down in the actual work of the kitchen.
One thing I find comes up a lot on this show, because I do sit down with a lot of restaurateurs and chefs particularly, is I say the term thankless a lot, because my exposure in the industry has been it can be very thankless. So you, especially back of house and front of house too, but back of house, you guys are back there grinding it out. It's hot. You're cutting yourself. You're burning yourself. I feel like at times it can be very thankless, but there are times, and feel free to jump in and interject here, where you watch someone dig into their plate and it's just they're overcome with joy. And in those moments, that's what keeps you going. I always call that the golf shot. You hit that one good shot, it keeps you coming back.
It totally does. It's you can be having the worst day and you've worked for 7-10 days in a row.
Right.
But then it happens to me at Harvest, because I think people come in there and sometimes they have absolutely no idea what to expect.
Right.
They're like, what do you do here? And we're like, oh, we do noodles and ramen. And and then, sometimes I have to explain it's not traditional. And don't be expecting the fatty broth and the fatty pork. But they, so they order something and they're just like, oh my God, this is so good.
Right.
And we have people that are in there like 3 days a week, if not more, and they order the same thing every time. And yeah, it just is when they like take the opportunity to come up to you and tell you, like, I just wanted like to let you know that was one of the best like bowls of noodles I've ever had, and thank you so much. For me personally, it's just like, that's why.
Does that resonate with you, Andrea?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're super fortunate here. We have an open kitchen, and we have an incredibly well bonded and respectful front of house, back of house team.
Right.
So everyone is, always in communication about everything. So any of those, whether it's actual customers sitting across from you at the kitchen bar who are sharing their experience with you, or it's the front of house staff who are, communicating that back to you, it's tremendously gratifying and really definitely keeps you motivated and like it means so much for cooks to know what it means to people to have this sort of experience.
Right. To that, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, down at Harvest too, like people are starting to know that we're like the same owners and we're connected, and regulars will come in there and be like, oh, I had the best meal at Burdock.
Oh, that's so cool.
Oh, it was just like, I had this and this and the wine, and it's pretty cool.
Do you guys both share a sense of pride when you hear those stories? Like that make you, is that kind of the juice worth the squeeze?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's cool. One thing I wanted to also tap into was, I feel as though my exposure and my dining experience as a guest, a lot of times I stop myself from giving feedback that might not be good feedback. So do you find that we as a society, and I'll just say Canada as a whole, maybe even North America, we stop from, if the waiter or waitress does a quality check on a table and say the halibut is undercooked or say the pasta's overcooked, we'll tend to just eat it. Do you as owners of a business and as chefs, do you guys want that feedback? Do you want to know if something isn't hitting their expectations? And if so, how do you digest that information, and what do you do to rectify it?
Well, definitely you want people to be honest about their experience, even though I know for myself sometimes I bite my tongue, because
that's, I don't know why, but what is that? Why do you personally do that?
Well, I think there's always that little bit of, that you're within the industry and they know you, and if it's a chef that I know, I would have that communication to them privately.
Okay.
I wouldn't necessarily share it with a server,
right?
Unless it's something just horribly,
terribly, like super far off,
terribly bad. Yeah,
if
then
something's like cold, or I think for me, like you don't want.
I just think it's interesting, and I love getting people's takes on this, both on the mic and off the mic, why they feel like we don't do that. Because I think myself, like, if we finish this podcast and you guys are like, you know what, Brad, actually that was terrible. Like, I want to know because I want to get better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I would assume as a business owner looking at just P&Ls, like, okay, how can we get better?
Yeah.
Like, I find in this industry, it's really tough to pull that out of people because we don't want to, air quotes, offend anybody or make anyone upset. But at the end of the day, that's the only way I think as an industry as a whole we get better, and then we can start maybe charging a little bit more, right? Which maybe makes staffing a little bit easier.
Right.
You know, so how can we draw that out of people? Is that through the interactions with the waiter or waitress at the table? Is that just the vibe in the business? Do you guys have any insight on what we can do to make people feel a little bit more comfortable to do that?
Well, I think I think there just needs to be a level of engagement with servers.
Right.
I think it's incredibly obvious if someone doesn't finish something.
Yes.
And for me, if I don't like something and it's offending me, I don't finish it.
Right.
And I do expect that a server will inquire. And it's in a way, it's up to them to like kind of make a little effort to figure out what's happened here.
Yeah.
And we do, it's the same thing here at the restaurant. If someone hasn't eaten a dish, obviously they haven't enjoyed it. We need, we can't just say, oh, they didn't enjoy it or they're full. I just don't buy that. So it always comes back to, getting the servers engaged to the point where they do figure out what the problem is. Maybe someone feels it's underseasoned, or it's just simply not to their taste, whatever it is. And then we have the opportunity to fix that and to, make amends, take it off a bill, get to the bottom of it. So it's really important that we do that and do have that engagement with our guests.
Mm-hmm. Do you find, because at Harvest it's a bit different because whereas obviously there is the open concept here, so everything's very visible, whereas
Harvest
there it's even more so
open.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So for those of you who haven't been to Harvest, it is a smaller space, if I can again interject here, but literally like the kitchen is right there, your food's being prepared right there. The tables are right there, so there's not a lot of gap. So do you find it a little bit easier to facilitate that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, a lot of our customers are regulars. I don't know all their names, but I know what they eat.
Right, that's
and
cool.
We talk as we're friends, but like I joke about it sometimes. I'm like, oh, what's your name? We've talked enough now. I should know, but if I notice they're not eating something, I always ask right away.
Right.
And I've had people ask for salt or ask for soy sauce, or maybe you'd be like, oh, the broth is a little thick today. Can I get some water? But I would rather have the broth be thick than have it too watery, right? Maybe it's just their personal tastes. I think we have people, if you feel comfortable where you are. Yeah. And if it's, the type of environment, we're not snooty. We're not. Yeah, exactly. We're just like, how is everything? Where sometimes people just eat everything and leave the noodles, and they're like, I'm too full. I couldn't eat that. Yeah. And then I always say, well, you have the option to order half noodles if you want. Like that's totally cool. And with all the gluten-free stuff happening now, that is definitely becoming more like, can I get no noodles, just greens and blah blah and we do what we can to.
I think it comes down to, and this just popped in my head, would be education and engagement. And I think to your point, Andrea, obviously Harvest is a bit different because you are right there, whereas here you're back in the kitchen and then you're kind of really leaning on the waiters and waitresses to be the ones that communicate like, hey, we want to make sure your experience is up to your expectations. So please let us know when and if something is wrong. Yeah, and then educating them on it's okay. Like this is what we want as an industry. I appreciate you guys letting me put a long tail on that kite because I'm just so intrigued by why we can't get out of our way a bit as consumers and help build this industry to what it can be. If something's wrong, please let your waiter, waitress know. Yeah, too polite. Exactly.
Too polite. Yeah.
If we change feeds for a second, Gabe, you mentioned that part of your tipping point into this industry was books. Like Bon Appetit magazines, etc. Can we talk a bit about the book that's coming up? Are we allowed to talk about that? Or no?
Sure. Yeah, I think so.
Cool. So, may have told them so for those of you who don't know, we were set to sit down a week ago, but we had to postpone, which is totally cool and totally fine because the ladies were off working on Andrea's first cookbook. First cookbook, which is really cool. So can you talk to us a bit about that, what we can expect to see in it and when we can expect to see it?
For sure. It's being published by Appetite Random House. Okay. And published date is fall of next year, so 2019.
So far away.
I know, it seems so far away.
Yeah, it'll be here before you know it.
Yeah, it will. Yeah. So basically it's built around the, what is Burdock and the experience of this restaurant, the recipes of this restaurant, and sort of my experience as a chef in this environment that is BC.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Does a product like this really excite you? Does it something that you is it a bucket list thing for you, or just happen?
It just, I'd say it happened more than anything. Like most things in my life, I don't really have a bucket list per se. Okay. But yeah, it just, was a great opportunity and very excited to do it. It's so cool too, because I'm not someone who tends to look back on things. So it's really cool.
She never saves recipes. Yeah. It's like,
interesting.
All the time she's
very
writing
painful.
Recipes, I get random texts and emails. Do you remember blah, 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 what we put in this?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
wow.
Yeah. So I always like to keep moving forward. Yeah. And so it was definitely, it was a bit of I needed some help from people too. Like, do you have the recipe for that thing we did?
Cooks who worked here like 2-3 years ago. Yeah. Like, do you remember that dish?
Was it fun though, looking back and recollecting a bit?
Yeah. Yeah, it was really fun. And doing the photography and just like, wow, this is cool. Like, it's cool to see everything sort of amassed, you know, in a moment like that.
So fall 2019, look for it. I'm assuming online and in stores everywhere.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Something you guys mentioned that is a reality of this industry and challenges is staffing, and it comes up on the show consistently. Why is it this industry seems to be so plagued, in your opinions, with these fluctuations where, like you were saying, Andrea, like a couple weeks ago, you were able to afford a few days off here and there, whereas now you don't really have a choice. You're on the line tonight. So what is about this industry that you think, I love both your opinions on that, why this industry is so difficult to keep traction with good talent?
Well, I mean, I think it's happening all over the world, and it's just cost of living. You know,
Right.
I think that's a big part of it. I've seen a number of cooks who've left the industry to go into other fields where they can be paid more.
Right.
And that's just the reality of being in a city like this. You know, it's
Yeah.
very expensive.
Yeah.
And margins in restaurants being what they are, you know, we just, you know, unless you're getting into a larger hotel or something like that, you're just not seeing wages that are able to keep up with cost
Right.
of living in this city.
Right.
And that's just the business model as it
Yeah,
stands.
people don't want to pay enough for the food that they want
Right.
to eat, I think is a big thing.
Yeah, the
They want organic,
Yeah.
local, but they don't
Yeah, and
know how much
that's-
it really costs.
That's
and
totally the challenge for you guys as people buying the product and setting the prices. Because, for example, let's just say that piece of halibut I talked about. That piece of halibut, someone's only there's a ceiling with that piece of halibut. No one's going to pay $75 for that. Will they pay 35? Maybe. Will they pay 38? Probably. Right? But are they going to pay 45? Probably not.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the challenge for this industry, people like yourselves, because those prices aren't coming down as far as the raw product. Yet you are supposed to maintain that price so that me and my friends can come in and we understand, okay, it should be about between $28 and $38 for a main. But it's just like you were saying, Andrew, those margins are getting smaller and smaller. So to keep people intrigued and to keep people in, it's becoming more and more difficult.
yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what the answer is to that. I don't know if there's like within this chef association locally, are there any silos that you guys know of that you guys like come together in a dimly lit room and you just like talk about how can we resolve these issues? Like, do you guys find there are formats and platforms for you guys to discuss that, or does it not exist? You guys are too busy anyway.
That does tend to be the problem, is
Yeah.
that it's difficult to wrangle the chefs all together at one point or in one place. The Chef's Table Society has been trying to do that for some time, but, you know, despite all the great stuff they've done, attendance can be quite spotty with,
Right.
you know, board members, and the community on the whole tends to just not really be that bought in.
Right.
So it makes it difficult to have any kind of leverage. And as far as there being like the BCRFA and their powers, you know, as a lobby group with the government to make some positive changes about liquor costs and that sort of thing, that's something that people are working on right now and trying to make change. But nothing has happened yet
Right.
that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Do you echo that?
Totally echo that. And I mean, it's hard. I mean, like with Harvest, I'm looking for people. I have way more turnaround than say Burdock or another restaurant.
Traditional restaurant.
Yeah. I have a cook and a counter person, and it's mostly people part-time. They're going to school. And yeah, like at the end of August, I have two people that I know are leaving.
Right.
And I'm just, then I'll be working like,
Right.
Every day. And there's not a lot of people dropping off resumes, and
Right.
not a lot of people that can work for, $15 an hour and
Yeah.
and
Which is crazy to me
live in the
'cause-
city. Like,
Yeah.
but how much can you, like, we sell ramen, and we sell ramen using organic ingredients and
Right.
local organic stuff. And people come in and they're like, whoa, like $15, $16. Like,
Yeah.
they're used to $12.95 bowl.
Yeah.
And I explained, like our eggs are friendly eggs.
Right,
Our
yeah,
chicken is
yeah.
happy chicken.
Which
like,
is what people want. Like you said, that's
which,
what people are crying for, right?
Yeah, but
But they don't want to pay for it.
they don't want to pay for it.
So
yeah.
2 words of advice to all you consumers. Tell us when the halibut's undercooked and get off your wallet and spend the extra
Pay for your
$4.
food. Yeah.
One thing I see right now, and I'd love to get your input on this, is the success of models similar to Harvest Community Foods, where it's more of a like a QSR model, like quick service restaurants. And I'll just throw some names out there right now, like Tractor or Railtown Cafe, just name Papina as well, where it's very, very casual. And I'm assuming, I don't know, I haven't seen the P&Ls, but the cost of a service is a lot less because you don't need as many bodies to execute that service. Do you feel like with the expansion of that model, we're going to see less and less restaurants like the Burdock Co's exist 10 years from now? Is that where we're going?
I think so. Yeah, definitely.
We've already seen the fine dining fall
fall
away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's where I have worked my career is in fine dining in places like Bishop's and Sea Restaurant back in the day. And those places are just no longer, people don't have the money. It's just gone out of style somewhat, that type of dining. So people want it fast. They want it, amazing ingredients. And one of the only ways that you can do that is through a quick service restaurant where you just, are able to cut the costs on your flowers and your, all these other things, amount of staff, all those things. Yeah. So you're cutting your costs so that you can have this model, and you have to have a tremendous amount of people coming through the door
Volume.
to make that work. Yeah.
I think for me, I'm afraid of that because I feel like that is I don't want to say antithesis of hospitality, but you really lose your ability to be hospitable to someone when your only interaction is, what can I get you? Here it is. It's $15. See you later.
Yeah.
Whereas if you come to Burdock Co, you're getting an experience. You're experiencing Burdock Co. You're kind of the lighting and the music and the smells and all those things. Where, again, this is not saying that Tractor is a bad model. It works, but there's no interaction. There's very little. Your only interaction with Tractor is that grilled piece of chicken.
Yeah.
So it better be a really good grilled piece of chicken or they're not coming back.
Yeah.
So I'm afraid that if we do see the expansion even more of this QSR model, that we will lose how I define hospitality. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Like, do you find when you go to these, like when you go to Papina, which is a great restaurant, do you find like you're missing that engagement? Or is it just expected?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to have that available, and it's being at Harvest, I definitely try and engage with the people more than the hi, how are you?
What do you want?
What do you want?
What do you want? Here it is.
Usually I'm like, oh, are you having the 39 today?
Right.
But so I definitely try and like talk to people, and because I love that. Like was one of my favorite things about working here at Burdock. Like, you can talk to the people at the bar. Like, I would always be like, hey, how's it going? You enjoy your dinner? And it was fun. I love the open concept, and I like that about Harvest. But going to Papilla, where I was saying to you earlier, like, I don't know how well the $200 seafood platter is going to do.
Right.
Because for me, if I'm spending that,
there's expectations.
I might want some service, and I might want to sit on a nice patio. And
right.
Like, I love Rob, and I love what
whole
they're
team,
doing, the whole team, but there are some expectations.
I think it's great. I think what they're doing down there is great. They're pushing the boundary a bit. They're seeing if it can be done, which more power to them, because you need people that are testing those waters. Yeah. Because how cool would it be if somehow you guys could open up a version of that, and that, you know what I mean, and kind of follow suit. Yeah. Andrea, if you were to be put on the spot like I'm going to do right now and define hospitality, how do you define hospitality?
Well, I think what you were alluding to earlier, that it is something that might not be found in every quick service establishment. Right. For me here at Burdock, what would define hospitality is when people come in who don't really know what we do. Maybe they're from out of town. Maybe they haven't seen these wines before. They're not super sure about this whole share plate idea. And, one of our servers literally takes them on a journey. Right. That is hospitality. So they come in perhaps unsure and unsettled, and they leave just, ecstatic with the experience that they've had, because somebody has taken the time and read the situation and been able to reach them on their level and
Right.
and give them
Explain
an
where the
amazing
food comes
experience.
from.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what is hospitality.
Right.
Yeah.
I always liken it to a dance. Like when I go to a restaurant and I'm a consumer, I always want to see how the waiter or waitresses knows how to dance with me and my guests. And I
Right.
think like every table, because
Exactly.
again, that's my exposure was front of house. So I would just love, I would get such a high off of challenging myself to understand how this table wanted to dance with me. Was it like that romantic dance or was it like that like hip hop, like let's just like have fun and
Yeah.
joke around? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you miss that, and this is, I don't want to just sit here and shit on QSRs because they have their place.
Yeah.
But I do have a fear that when my daughter is 36, her exposure to hospitality will only be Sunday dinners at our house.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And she won't have that opportunity to come to a place like a Burdock Co. and be like, oh, interesting. This is what it's about. Like, oh, that's a natural wine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I think the artists will always keep it going. When I think
Yeah.
of the people in this industry that are giving people some really remarkable experiences, a lot of them, are kind of artists. And
Right.
whether it's the cooks or the servers, and that matters, and that hospitality, whether it's having the dinner party at your house or, a picnic outdoors
Yeah.
with your friends, I think that sort of thing will never die.
100%.
And all, there will always be the people that are going to be bringing it back and keep bringing it back to the forefront and making it relevant. And if every restaurant like Burdock Co was to close, it'll come back one day. Like,
Right.
Someone will bring it back. Like, don't you remember when that
Yeah.
was so great?
There
Let's
was
bring it
cutlery.
back. Yeah.
Yeah. You
Cloth
didn't-
napkin.
Cutlery
Ah,
that
whoa.
was
Yeah.
not plastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Question I ask on every podcast, and I'm going to put you ladies on the spot, but there's two of you, so it's much easier.
Okay.
It's called the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast. So I have for you, Andrea and Gabe, the half a dozen have twos. So because there's two of you, I just need three from both of you.
Okay.
So what it is something that you've experienced in your life. Doesn't have to be food related. It can be food related, but something you feel like our listeners, our viewers have to try, like a book you've read or a dish you made or a trip you've taken, a record you've purchased, a concert you've been to. Three from each of you of your absolutely, Andrea is super stressed out.
I need advance warning for this stuff.
Yeah.
My memory's not very
do.
sharp.
It can be, if food's easy, just go with food. So like the top
I'm gonna
three.
say like go to Japan. We
Okay.
were there last year, and that was
That was amazing.
especially
Okay.
during the cherry blossom season.
Oh,
Like,
beautiful.
if you can ever experience anything, like go to Japan during the cherry blossom season.
Okay, see how easy that was? One, done.
Ha!
You still have two more. Like I noticed, Andrew, you have some ink on you. Would you say you have to get a
No,
tattoo?
this is actually new for
Oh,
me.
I like it.
Thank you. I like it too.
Would you say to listeners and viewers, if you have it within you, go and get a tattoo?
No, not
No?
at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I think that's what's great about this industry is that you can literally be anyone you want to. Like it's
True.
always been, especially
true.
in kitchens, the place that supports people that are like
Yeah, the diversity.
a bit weirder around the edges, and
Right.
yeah, it's open to everybody. I don't know. I'm reading the David Lynch memoir right now, and I'm really, really enjoying that.
Okay, cool.
And I'm enjoying the fact that, he's, for all of his sort of eccentric films and, all of his art, he's just seems like this incredibly humble, quiet, down to earth person who just, is content and focuses on seemingly, quiet things.
Right.
So I'm really appreciating that right now because that's something that I feel I can relate to is, sometimes things are just very subtle and very, quiet, for lack of a better word.
What's the name of the book,
There's all
sorry?
of this chaos. Room to Dream. It's
Room to Dream.
David Lynch's memoir. And I just started reading it when I was in LA about a week ago.
Okay, so read, David. That's a great have
It's
to.
great. Like it's just, just sort of looking at this person who's this icon in the art world and, seeing his take on the world
Right.
and his
Very cool.
experiences. Yeah, it's really cool.
Very cool. Back to you, Gabe. If you guys have to tap out, we can tap out, but 2 is pretty late.
I mean, for me, I would definitely say coming to Burdock for dinner.
Okay, shout out
You
to
totally
Burdock.
paid her for that.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but like I come all the time now by myself, and I sit at the bar,
Yeah.
and it's like if you haven't experienced food and wine that are like made to go together,
Right.
and it is an experience.
Right.
So like you don't have to come in and have all the wine and all the food, but
Right.
I've never the food that Andrea makes and the natural wine that they have, it's just, and I never order any wine. I just
Right.
whoever's working,
Whoever's curating. Yeah, that's
I'm like,
so
this
cool.
is what I'm going to eat.
Yeah,
What would you drink with it?
Right.
And yeah, it's always
that's fun.
an amazing experience. So I would definitely, that is a must-have
Cool.
on my
Nice.
list.
Andrea,
Yeah.
back to you. I don't want to stress you out.
Well, it's pretty simple, this one. And I don't know if it's enough, but cooking
Sure.
over charcoal.
Yeah, hey, that's a great one. That's a great one.
For everybody, vegetarian, meat eater, whatever it is,
Right.
like, you can we have access now to so many great charcoals, hardwood charcoals,
Right.
Binchatan, you name it. And you can just and I mean, last night I cooked over charcoal
Okay.
and it was cabbage and
Oh, beautiful.
Romano beans and corn, and it was so good. It was just like, wow, this is great,
I like that.
and so cooking over charcoal.
That's a great one.
Mm-hmm.
Gabe, right back to you for your last one. It's like a game of tennis here. I like it.
What did I say? Japan.
You said Japan and come to Burdock,
and
which
come to
is
Burdock.
a great recommendation.
Anything
Anything else you've
Have I
experienced?
experienced this recently?
Or way back when, something you've done, you really do that. Like go to Stratford and take the culinary classes there, or
Yeah, it's really cold in the winter there.
read
so-
Bon Appetit magazine.
I would say, I mean, this is also kind of food related, but if you get a chance to take a bottle of wine, even that's illegal, to the beach or the park
Yeah.
and watch the sunset
Ooh,
this
nice.
summer. There's been a few good ones.
Yeah,
and
beautiful ones.
It's
Do you-
something that my roommate and Julie and I have done a few times this summer.
Do you mind if I ask what you're taking with you? What kind of wine? Are you a rosé? Are you strictly white?
We have done some.
Everything.
Yeah.
We don't have time on the show.
As
Yeah.
long as it's a Magnum.
Yeah,
Magnum
exactly.
of Malay
Yeah.
or
Do you have a
Yeah.
favorite? Do you have a favorite though? A favorite sunset wine that we can share with the guests?
I think the Malay was the one we
Yeah?
did last time. Yeah, is that how
Beautiful.
you say it, Malay? Yeah, and also some brass neck, raspberry or red currant changeling.
Shout out to Brassneck.
Is definitely on the list for the beach
Very
sunset.
cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. Last one, Andrea.
Back to sort of printed materials again. It's maybe partially because I haven't actually read it yet, but I just got the latest copy of Fool magazine.
Fool?
Yeah, which
FOOL?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know it. I'll look it up. I have to look it up.
I
have to
feel
look it up.
I feel when it was introduced to me, someone said it's called
Yeah.
Fool magazine because
Yeah.
people pay so much for it.
Oh, okay.
Which I did with this episode, with this copy, which
Right.
shocked me. They have, it's all food based,
Oh, cool.
international, cool stuff, and the photography and the art in it will blow
Oh.
your mind.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to that. Wicked. That was not that painful.
No,
Yeah.
let's do more.
Yeah. We can with the second question, which is the half a dozen haven't yets. So just as quickly as we can, things you haven't experienced yet. I know Andrea said you're not really a bucket list person, but 3 things that you haven't done yet that you just feel like you really want to do, whether it's get more tattoos, whether it's go back to Japan,
Ooh.
whether it is
I
go
want
back to
to
the
eat my way
beach.
through Italy.
Okay, done.
All right.
See, easy.
That
One, done.
is that's definitely.
Do you mind if I ask where you'd start?
No, I'd ask Andrea because she's been there a few times, and it would have to be with her. And
Okay.
be like-
Italy is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't go wrong.
I've been like to Florence once when I was 19 after high school, and yeah, it
Right,
was-
not the same.
Yeah. So I've never been back, and it's definitely after hearing her food stories. I'm like,
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
Italy
Italy.
for Gabe.
yeah.
More of Japan, the southern islands,
Yeah.
Okinawa,
Okay.
that kind of area.
Yeah.
Sound very, very intriguing with the food that is there.
Yeah. Very cool.
Mhm.
I haven't explored much of that, but just you're piquing my interest. Gabe, back to you as we volley back and forth.
Run a marathon.
Ooh.
Half marathon. Half
Ooh.
marathon.
Okay.
Nice, nice.
Witnesses. Andrew and I are here. It is August the 8th.
It's on if I had a bucket list.
Yeah, it's August the
I
8th.
tried and I got injured. I got to
Okay.
in training like to 13 kilometers I think I could do, and then that was 2 years ago. I'm
Okay.
probably down to 5 now. So
Hey, 5's better than 1.
it is.
better than 4.
It's definitely still on my mental.
Can we
list of things to do in my
at the podcast and the hordes of listeners, can we hold you accountable to this?
Oh, totally.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. when ideally with a magic wand would you have this done by?
Ideally, I would probably get. I'll give myself. Hold on, I'll give myself 3 years.
3 years.
Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna say
All
a
right.
year because 3 years is way too long.
No, because I have to really think about it.
Okay. Very cool. That's a great one.
Okay,
though.
2 years.
2 years. Okay, we're
Because
gonna
I'll
get,
be 45 in 2 years.
okay. So
so
for
that's
your
a good-
45th birthday.
Am I? 45th.
Cool. All right, done.
Maybe
so
I'll
that's,
do. Oh God.
those are your 2. She's committed. This is on record,
All
both
right.
audio
Yeah.
and video.
Mhm.
And Andrew and I have witnessed it. So, Andrea, 1 more or 2 more for you.
Well, we had this great dinner here this spring with a couple of winemakers from Italy and Slovenia.
Oh, okay.
2 female winemakers that are quite famous. And when they were here, we were just like, this is the most amazing thing. We have to organize a staff trip
Oh.
to visit them.
Very cool.
And of course, things got busy and hectic, and I
Yes.
haven't had a free moment, but it's still on my list of things to do is
Oh,
to make that
so
staff
cool.
trip happen to visit Foradori and Grafner.
Okay. I think it's going back to the conversation we had earlier about like traction and keeping staff. I think it's stuff like that. If it's feasible for restaurateurs, entrepreneurs to do, that's how you like capture people. Not capture them, like hold them hostage, but maybe inspire them to go open their own restaurant. Do you know what I mean? Things
Yeah.
like that. I think that for me resonates so much more than an extra $5 an hour. Last one from you, Gabe.
I'm not saying anything else, or else I'll have to commit to something.
Ooh, that's intriguing. Oh my God.
Okay. Andrea, last one.
Last one. So curious.
Yeah.
No. Well, I don't really have anything.
Nothing else you haven't
Well,
done that you like.
I'm sure there are. I just.
You were mentioning before we came on air that you hadn't tried, I think it was Dixie's yet, a local barbecue
Oh
spot.
yeah, I tried to
Haven't?
DoorDash it last night.
my
And they
God.
were closed.
Yeah, come on, Dixie's Tuesday night.
Really.
So maybe, hey, there you go.
Or else they were just so busy that the DoorDash was turned off. That's
Perfect.
That can
another.
happen.
That
Yeah.
can happen.
Okay, so hey, sorry, Dixie's.
Yeah.
Perhaps
so
you were open.
Perhaps you're open.
But yeah, there you go. Easy haven't yet. You haven't had Dixie's yet, which I
Yeah.
can say I've been. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's great. They do good
Yeah.
things down there. Yeah,
Yeah,
really
it's
good.
really good.
Yeah,
Gosh, I don't know. Just like more travel.
more travel.
More travel.
More travel.
More travel.
Always.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think as people that appreciate food as much as you two do, and myself as well, I think when I travel, it's my number one focus. It's it's why and how I curate most of my trips.
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
when you say Italy, I started salivating
Yeah.
because there's so many beautiful options there. I love French food as well,
Yeah.
but for me, Italy is just where it's at. So
Yeah,
shout out to
absolutely.
Italy and all the pastas. And one thing I was quick Italy story. One thing I was so impressed by was in the airport. The food was still really good in the airport, but one thing they called out on a menu, in the airport was a little asterisk that said. It had a little icon that they would place next to items that were previously frozen.
Wow.
And there
Okay.
was like 2. That's it.
Oh, wow.
On a menu of like 14 different things.
Yeah.
And I would love it if somehow it became a law in Canada that you had to do that. The amount of restaurants, and I won't name the restaurants, that would
Yeah.
have like icons all over the place of this food that isn't fresh and isn't local or isn't organic. It's just, it's amazing to me when you're in a place like Italy, how much time, effort, and pride they put into their food, which I feel like you're doing here, and you're doing at Harvest as well. I feel like that is the vibe you guys are giving off, and it's a challenge that you have as well because you're trying to maintain that. Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
100%.
So I know you're both very busy. we will wrap it up there. But before we do, I want to thank you both so much for your time. I look forward to checking in 1 year.
Two, I said.
To make sure Gabe
Just make sure you started training.
Yeah.
Okay.
Has
training.
has her half marathon.
Half
Totally. Marathon done.
There's no way I'm running
and then
42 kilometers.
And then we'll ensure that Andrea has taken time to facilitate
our staff trip to
Italy.
Italy and Slovakia, was it?
Slovenia.
Amazing. But again, thank you so much for holding space for myself and the podcast. And I want to say thank you guys for doing what you do. Thank you for fighting the fight and keeping up in what is a very challenging and, like I say in the intro, a very dynamic industry. So kudos to you both for doing what you do day in and day out. And we thank you as a community. And if you haven't been in to Burdock Co, please come in and check it out. They are open from 5 until
10-ish.
10-ish. Okay.
7 days a week. And then for brunches from 10 until 2.
Perfect. And before we go quickly, I wanted to mention the CSA program down at Harvest Community Foods as well.
Yeah.
So Harvest opens up at 11, as Gabe mentioned. And that is 7 days a week.
Yep.
And then also, you can also take part in their CSA program.
Every 2 weeks, all year round on Thursdays. So every other Thursday, we offer, a CSA bag. Always $33, and it is just a bunch of great local organic fruits and vegetables from the local farms.
Love it.
Yeah, about 10 different things, small amounts, so it's good for, making a couple meals. You don't have to have like a whole bunch of kale or a whole bunch of lettuces. It's just like, one head of lettuce, a bunch of carrots, and
very cool.
Yeah, it's pretty good, and it's a good way to support the local farms.
Yeah, which is huge.
Which I like to do. So,
and to access that, they do that in the shop or online?
You can do it both in the shop, online. It's not a commitment, so it's great if you want to just try it once and then never again, or you can sign up every 2 weeks.
Cool. And that is
www.harvestunion.ca.
Perfect. And if the people that are watching, listening, want to support you guys, where can they find you? Where can they help support your brands? Instagram, internet?
Yeah. Facebook, Instagram.
Facebook, Instagram. And is it at Burdock Co on Instagram?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, we'll check it. We'll check in on that one. And then it is
Harvest Union.
It is at Harvest Union on Instagram. Again, thank you ladies so much. It was really fun. I appreciate Andrea, you driving all over town to get here and make this happen. Stay tuned, guys, for the cookbook in fall of 2019.
That's right.
And as I mentioned, get into Harvest and get into Burdock & Co as soon as you can to support these ladies and what they're doing. Thank you guys. As always, be sure to tune in next week for a brand new episode. And until then, be good and do good. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.